Well, hello again. I've got a bit of a sinus infection, and I've been dealing with that for the last week. So my voice is a little rough, but I'm sure I will make it. Uh, Found this today. It's my old hard sell pack. Been thumbing through it. I wanted to talk about a concept in when you're on staff that's sort of slowly ingrained into your psyche, called responsibility. And basically, and this was my Bible, by the way. I was. Even though I said I wasn't really good at getting people in or starting services, I was pretty good at keeping people in, and especially some of the luminaries that they wanted at the Melrose mission. Whenever we were doing our mission there, responsibility means something totally different than what we're used to in reality. It's for me, it was sort of an unraveling of what I considered responsibility, and over a period of probably a couple of years, really to a point to where, I mean, just completely lost all concept of what being a really responsible person is. So, and actually, that is probably one of the biggest leftover ruins, if you want to call it that, in my life after being involved in the church is. Being responsible for things. When I did the when I did my first action on the purification rundown, or on the bridge, the purification rundown, I had very little debt. I was 23 years old, and I had borrowed the $1,400 from my mom to pay for it, and other than that, I had like $400. I had a $400 Sears card that I was paying off, and really no other debt to speak of, like none. None. Had no debt really, which was nice. I had credit. If I wanted to get something, I could get it. It was pretty amazing, actually. But not long after I, went to the Purif, I had these other courses and classes that I was doing, and they were, supposedly going to help me. So I applied for a credit card, and I got a credit card, and I think I had like a $1,200 limit or something, and that was, initially, I know for me at least, whenever they want you to pay for these services, you're very skeptical. You don't want to spend that kind of money. Even if you think it's going to help, you want to be a responsible person. You want to, debt is not a good thing. Debt accrues interest, and then the more debt you have, the more interest you have, the more it's a dwindling spiral, and it can be tough to get back under control after you've lost control, and it's a very real. It's a very real problem. But in Scientology, those are simply considerations. Considerations that your bank, your reactive mind, are imposing on you to prevent you from getting the help that you need. And like I said, it's a slow process, but there are lots of references lots of things to read. Even when you're doing the cheap courses, there's, almost every course you do, unless it's a volunteer minister's course, is going to have KSW right up in the front. And I cannot tell you how many times me or anyone in the course room, I've had to word clear KSW, even after being on staff for 1.5 years, 2 years. It's it's hammered into you that this is not a joke. We're not here, like Jason McGay said, we're not here to placate you. Scientology is real shit, and it's going to save the universe and the planet and whatever, this sector of the galaxy, Target 2 and beyond. So the whole idea of responsibility for your dynamics becomes this very sick source of like justification that completely can destroy, and I mean, most of the people who have left Scientology that have filed lawsuits or seeking reparations or damages from are related to this particular point, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million or more, because it's financially ruining. It does financially ruin you. That is a fact. Unless you've just got oodles and gobs of money to piss away. I didn't. But I'm probably, in the first video, I probably spent around $34,000 in total, all in all, in my time. And that for me is a huge amount of money. I mean, there's people who spent, $500,000. Like I said, my friend Alex spent probably $350,000. I was part of some registration cycles that had people selling their entire homes, all of their assets, cars, to join the Sea Org. People moving into a different home, moving their entire family to get into a cheaper house because the market went up for a little bit on their property, and they wanted to, literally for $20,000, just for a quick auditing intensive or something. Moving, one guy paid up for his whole OT package and training, and that was a cycle that was done at Melrose Mission that everyone was a part of. It was part of the, you love bomb people, you get them in these reg cycles, and you tell them how important it is to their future and the future of humanity, and how important it is that they do this. Is they have to take responsibility for their dynamics. And if you don't know what dynamics are, it's there's in Scientology there's the 8 dynamics. First dynamic is you. Second dynamic is your family and your relationships. Third dynamic is the group that you're a part of. Fourth dynamic is mankind. Fifth dynamic is plants, animals, and other life. Sixth dynamic is physical universe objects. Seventh dynamic is spiritual, and eighth dynamic is whatever you consider to be God. And so the responsibility concept is spread across all the dynamics. You're this one being, and you have all these little dynamics, and you're surviving to a greater or lesser degree on each one of these dynamics. And the more that you can contribute to those dynamics, the better. And in Scientology, the only thing that's really contributing to dynamics is Scientology. So you are doing the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics always if you are paying for services, if you're getting auditing, if you're on course, if you are getting someone else into Scientology, if you're selling books, if you're doing free programs, if you donate money and get books and then you give them out, that's all considered very survival, very pro-survival. But it has really little to do with you, because once you've paid, the money goes up. The money goes up, and then you're just, you know, you may get the service, you may not. In my case, I didn't get much of the services that I paid for. I was on staff, and when you're on staff, you're supposed to make time for your services, which is interesting concept, because, you know, working 16 hours a day, you're selling auditing to other pre-clears and people at the mission, and they're getting auditing and they're doing course, and they take priority over anything that you've got going on. Even though they're out in the WOG world and not really taking full responsibility for the planet, they have more money than you, and, you know, basically they have more seniority than you. The people who are on staff who pay for services generally get the shaft, and it was really a bummer being on staff with that, because you're in that mindset that you really believe in it and you think that it's going to help you, and if you could just get through your auditing or your your whatever rundown you're on, or, you know, hell, even just to get in session on the cans, you think it would help you. But it's essentially your responsibility to make that happen. Well, no one is interested in your case, because there's a policy called, I'm not sure what the policy is. There's a saying that everyone always brings up: no case on post. And that just means that you're not to talk about your upsets to anyone on the job, and you're always on the job. So, you know, you are suppressing all of this constantly, and it will, you know, it becomes quite an exercise in self-control to suppress that. In the meantime, you are still expected to proclaim and profess how Scientology is helping you so much. To the people that you have introduced into Scientology, and to the people that you meet, the people that other people have brought in, it's all rainbows and butterflies, you know. You are expected to help sell any product that, you know, is pushed down from the top. New lecture series, new books, reprints, old stuff that needs to be, you know, gotten rid of. The whole LRH library. I mean, there were several times when we had a big push to sell everyone their entire LRH library. Hey, you need to get your LRH library. Oh yeah, it's, you know, oh, it's not as much as you think. Oh man, you know, it's sales. It is high pressure sales, and it's also, to put it frankly, it's a psychotic place to live and work in. Psychotic. I mean, I had psychotic breaks, no doubt. Other people I saw had psychotic breaks, no doubt. Sometimes multiple times in a day. And you just, because you believe all this shit, no case on post, you know, you think that it's the bank, you know, you're convinced that it's your reactive mind, and that your reactive mind is so against you and so base and subconscious that, you know, you can't trust it. You can't trust your own mind. And I think that that's part of the really the the brainwashing aspect, and that you can't even trust, yourself. You have no center in yourself. You can't look at things from an objective point of view. I mean, I'm not sure if you can even do that. Period. But you cannot. You have no basis of examining things for your own self, because you're constantly thinking that it's this other thing that has control over you, that is telling you negative, bad things about what you're doing. And you just don't want to trust that. And there's layers and layers and layers and layers upon how this system works. I mean, it's quite ingenious. L. Ron Hubbard was quite a talented individual. I often wonder if he has any. I don't know. Maybe he was Satan. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what I believe anymore, but because there really is no. At this point, I'm kind of at the point I was before I got into Scientology, where I'm just sort of agnostic. I have some very loosely held beliefs. I do find that there are religions that have usefulness, like that they're not harmful, okay? But Scientology is very harmful. And responsibility, back to this, okay, to responsibility. Responsibility in Scientology, really, to me, and I'm just going to break it down into simple terms, okay? I'm not going to get into really deep philosophical stuff. Responsibility in Scientology, really, to me, only meant that you give as much of you can of yourself to the church without asking anything in return. And if you did, after you gave the money and you did ask something in return, then you were out ethics, and you were a degraded being, and whatever gains that you sought to get out of Scientology, you were only doing it to try to exploit the church and to make them wrong, service facsimiles and whatever the girls' problem masses, whatever you want to call it, that's these terminology that they use. And really, I'm trying to get out of using these terminologies. I do plan on in the future making fun of it. I always wanted to do Scientology humor, because we used to actually joke about it on staff. We would make up little skits and stuff about basically just straight up Scientology humor. But I really don't like talking like that anymore, because it's just all a bunch of shit. It's all a bunch of gobbledygook. It doesn't mean anything. It is a pseudo science that is not proven. There are no independent studies. There's nothing there. All it is conjecture, and some guy who just decided that he believed that the Xenu story, okay? I don't care. It does not. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. So, I do run into people sometimes who still talk like Scientologists. They'll mention ethics, and they'll mention dynamics or ARC, KRC, whatever. However they talk. I talked like it for years, even after I was out. But I really want to try to get back into the WOG world, where real people live. And I'm not saying that anyone who still uses the things that they learned from Scientology that they found useful aren't, living in the real world. I'm not saying that, because for me personally, I don't want to use the terminology, because I was so ingrained into that culture that even just to start using it again kind of makes me a little leery, because I don't want to get back into that mindset, because it's taken so long to get out of it. And right now in my life, I am feeling pretty good about not being in that state of mind anymore. And I'm not, I mean, I think about it, you know, for a long time, I didn't want to get back into the WOG world and go get a job because of some of the references that are in here. In fact, there's one that I was reading a while ago, Limitations of Homo Novus. And this was one of the ones, and I'll read that maybe another time, but this was one of the ones that that really, when I was on staff, was one of my favorite references in the hard sell packet. It has to do with just how shitty life is, how shitty, oh, that sounds pretty depressing, but you know, just kind of how the world works, you know, how depressing it is, people killing each other, you know. I mean, I've never really, war and famine and genocide and all this sort of stuff, and it really is a bummer. But to be honest, you know, compared, like for me to go out and get a job that I don't really particularly like, but that pays me in exchange for what I'm doing on a fair exchange, and I get days off. Hey, you know, before I was in Scientology, that was okay. Now, I didn't like necessarily working, but I got exchange for it, you know. And these days, you know, I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got a lot of things that I'd like to do with my life still. And you know, I love music, I love art, I love film. Some extra money for my kids and for my hobbies would be a wonderful thing. And compared to the mindset and what I was living with on staff, where I'm working 16-hour days, 7 days a week, for $40-50 a week, maybe sometimes we didn't get paid. And then the just the whole mental anguish of it all. You know, like, to me, I would rather be, basically what I'm being irresponsible in a Scientology sense by making these videos and by getting a job and by doing all this blah blah blah, not dedicating myself to the freeing of mankind and the clearing of the planet. But in reality, the way I see it is that for the first time in 10 years, I'm actually being responsible, and I'm going to do something with myself. So it's a pretty exciting time for me. There are quite a few things going on in my personal life right now, but you know, I'm not too terribly concerned with it, because I feel like I'm making some progress, and that's really kind of what I wanted to say about responsibility. Again, I know I'm just kind of rambling and talking on here, but like I said, it seems to be helping me, and I'm just going to keep doing it until. So, you guys have a happy Mother's Day. Be sure to tell your mom that you love her, and get her a card or, you know, some flowers. My mom was there for me, so even whenever she didn't understand and didn't know what the hell was going on with me, I'm lucky to have a mom like I have. So love you, Mom, and you guys have a good weekend, and catch you later.